down all the time, but they're playing so consistently well. Kassadin taken off the board right away. H2K on the blue side.
I quite like the ban for the Kassadin because we've seen Fox playing it twice already, and actually both times were blind picked. So Fox is comfortable on that Kassadin, SK's got the teamwork, and they've actually got the lane strength to get that Kassadin to mid and late game, as they've already demonstrated this split.
Oh, Sion ban. They were watching that game. Odoamne, he did play that once. It wasn't incredibly useful later on when he was getting a little bit far ahead of his team, but I guess they just don't want to deal with that randomness there. The Rek'Sai banned away too, and not surprised at all to see that taken away.
Also the Mega Tank. It's really difficult to deal with Sion once he hits that mid-game point because he can just tank for days and days. You have to highlight Jarvan is still up, Gnar is still up. These are high priority picks. It is 5.2 and he's taken a brief hit. The reason I bring that up, Voidle is a little bit of an Annie player. He's played 2 of the 4 games this split already. And despite the fact that Tibbers gets a bit tankier, her laning presence has been reduced. Officio and I have debated that Molten Shield, Armor, and MR hit quite a lot. I want to see whether or not teams are still going to play her. And the big question from solo queue is Nidalee jungle going to appear in LCS? She's terrorizing high elo solo queue. Amazing feels that it's not really a potential. We talked to him earlier today, but let's see if the teams in the LCS agree.
Yeah, Jarvan banned off the board. So while H2K is taking junglers for the most part, SK have been banning out Odoamne. The only other champion he's played thus far in the LCS has, of course, been, well, he's played Lissandra and Gnar, so they can only ban one of those. But I think at this point you might want to get rid of the Gnar, just because it's just so powerful in general. The Jarvan's already not available, but still.
Yeah, the question is, what do SK want? They've picked a Kennen into a Gnar before, and they won with that. So, leaving Gnar up on the table, H2K, the question is, do they want to first pick it and run the risk of trying to deal with Freddy's Kennen? That particular matchup, though, it was comboed with the Rek'Sai and a Kassadin, which have been taken off of the table. So, the combo that SK have run to beat a Gnar is not fully available, but you have to think that because SK have beaten it before, they're not afraid of it. Fact of the matter is, it's still up. But with Lee Sin banned, Nidalee jungle, well, okay, let me not get too excited, but we're going to see different junglers from what we've been seeing as your primary main ones. So
you could drop it, it's all right, that's fine. Now that was a very quick Zed lock-in. So that is H2K feeling pretty confident here in taking a early mid pick.
Leaving Gnar up. Freddy has played Gnar, his first pick Gnar. You've also got the likes of Elise if you wanted to play your more traditional jungler.
Or we could see the Nidalee will harvest.
Or we could see, but
it may be hiding in a brush for a little while.
There's a lot of champions available because this pick and ban phase has gone a little bit different to what we've been expecting. You've still got the likes of Rumble, you've still got Gnar, you've still got Lissandra. You've got all of these picks up and available. And I don't want to talk about the hover until it's locked in, but these are options available for the teams. And the question is, what do SK want? They have 2 of these power picks that they can choose from, and they've got 10 seconds to decide what they will be.
Yeah, it really is bold taking that Zed first pick, but there we go. SK locks that one in. So the Nidalee and the Gnar are both picked up. Freddy and Svenskeren, H2K have some limited options in that jungle now, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Elise, but there are a few other things you can see on the screen. Probably whispering in their ears, trying to give them some input here. We
need to see where this Nidalee ends up. Once the rest of SK's team comp locks in, we're expecting it in the jungle. And one of the things that Amazing was talking about is if this Nidalee doesn't get rolling in the early game, she's very difficult to play around in the mid-game stages because of the fact that she relies so much on her laners. You need to have initiation, you need to have a front line because all Nidalee's going to offer is poke and execution when she jumps into that Cougar form. So we need to see how SK wrap up the rest of their team composition.
Oh, the Lissandra lock. So H2K goes for that one, and now they have a fairly squishy composition built out here. So you don't really, you know, the Mundo might have been a pretty good choice to deal with a lot of that early game hyper aggression, regardless of if they lane swapped or anything else like that. But yeah, this time it's a little more all-in focused.
It is. It's very much pick-centric. Lissandra, Elise, lock down a single target, have Zed to assassinate as well. H2K are looking to pop somebody. Once they've popped someone, they can then look to win a team fight. They can also split push with Zed if they want to, but there's no real beefy front line here for H2K. So they may want to go for a fairly tanky support, something like a Leona, maybe even a Braum.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that, actually. H2K, though, they've definitely been known to have a pretty strong early game, but where it's fallen apart for them have been when they've let those games drag on. Like, see the Copenhagen Wolves match from the other week, and it's a bit troubling when you can't deal with a team as consistently solid as SK Gaming.
I agree with you, and the reason that H2K struggled in that particular matchup against Copenhagen Wolves, where it dragged out, is they didn't have enough damage. They had 2 mega tanks from the jungle and from the top lane, and it was also a tank Elise in that particular matchup. Sion Elise was the combo. But with a Zed and a Lissandra, they've circumnavigated all of that damage problems. The only risk is they need to make sure they don't let this Gnar get ahead. If Freddy's Gnar gets tanky and beefy, that could be a very scary front line that H2K have to find a way to get around and deal with.
Yeah, and you mentioned that a Leona might be a smart choice here, and it looks like they're thinking about it. Corki is also still available. Both the AD carries, actually. Forgiven has only played dashing AD carries. Lucian once, Graves 3 times. Should have his pick of the litter there, as they do still think about what they want on this final choice for H2K.
So with the full assassin comp, they have 2 options. Either Leona for all-in to start the fights, or Hjarnan for disengage to protect and kite and try get the damage down from Lissandra, from Zed, from Corki. There's a lot of wave clear, there's magic damage, physical damage, split pushing power. I quite like the team comp that H2K has put together, but they need to dictate the tempo of the game. If they are not in control, it could get to a point where Zed could get shut down by a Gnar, you could get Lissandra in a little bit of a bully lane. So I think we're expecting a lot of aggression here from H2K, and the Leona completely signals it. It is one of Voidle's sort of most played champions in the bigger picture when we have seen him on the scene. Unfortunately, only a loss to his name in the spring split here in the LCS.
Yeah, well, inside of SK Gaming, they're picking some things that they're definitely known for, at least in the bottom lane. Forgiven is going to rock the Graves, it looks like. He's still got a minute to decide as they talk it over, but they'd already picked their mid laner too. There it is, locked in. Fox is on the Fox, and this is a bit of a throwback to Jez's even. Bit of an homage, if you will.
Interesting to see Fox playing what was considered a DFG assassin in the mid lane on the patch where DFG is removed. This is the first time we're seeing it on it. But the one thing that we are going to see is that jungle Nidalee. So there's a lot of pressure on Freddy to get control of his lane, get super tanky, super beefy, and be the front line that SK needs. We're also seeing nRated for the first time on Ahri. Traditionally, he's been playing those support-type champions, Lulu and Blitzcrank. So now there's responsibility on nRated to get those flash Tibbers down and make some use of the changes to Tibbers to his armor. So we'll see how that pans out. It's a slightly different flavor from SK, and I'm very excited to see how Svenskeren handles this jungle Nidalee.
I'm also really excited to see how Fox handles the new and improved Ahri to compensate for the DFG removal. There's a lot of extra oomph in her kit on this 5.2 patch. We'll see how that does affect and how that does shape the play. SK, again, very solid team across the board. H2K are really going to need to work at getting this early game under control, I would say. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I think for SK, the most interesting story that we're going to have to just watch is how Svenskeren interacts with the lanes. He also does not have a traditional massive front line in those tanks. And, you know, for the first time seeing this jungle Nidalee here in the European LCS, it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm very interested indeed. Now, with the lineups locked in, let us know if you think H2K will be able to give SK their first loss of the season. Tweet us at LOL Esports using the hashtag H2KWin or SKWin, and we'll see what you think in-game. Now, it is all darkened up. The audience is quiet to start this one off, and it looks like we're about to load up. Here we go, onto the Rift. It is week 3 of the European LCS Spring Split. H2K versus SK Gaming on the board.
One of the tricks that we've seen from these solo queue Nidalees, starting off with W and actually pulling the camp. So we'll see what Svenskeren decides to do.
Now, we have heard a little bit earlier on the side of H2K what loulex had to say on the enemy he'll be facing in the jungle.
Aggressive, he will try to contest your second buff almost every time. Just really annoying to play against, and also he doesn't invest a lot in wards, so he just gets his item way faster than you will get them. So it's really hard to go for 1v1, 2v2.
Well, that was an interesting quip for loulex. Well, that all happened, of course, Forgiven. Had to burn his flash a little bit early, and some strange positioning to start the game off. I don't think he expected H2K's bot lane to really be hanging out by there.
He didn't expect it, nor did we.
No, we didn't.
So, Forgiven, forced to burn his flash. I do want to comment on what loulex was saying, that Svenskeren, traditionally very aggressive, and he likes to contest the second buff. I want to see if he still feels the same way playing this Nidalee. As I was highlighting, when I've seen some of the solo queue games from Jungle Nidalee, they actually start with Bushwhack Pounce, the W. Sven, however, has actually started with Javelin Toss / Takedown. So we'll keep an eye on how he's skilling this champion up. But one of the things that Nidalee can do, thanks to the Hunt, and the additional damage that she gets from her Cougar form, she can clear 1 or 2 camps very, very quickly and put some pressure on your enemy jungler. So let's see if Svenskeren decides to do that.
Well, loulex did say in that clip that it's really annoying to play against Svenskeren. It's especially annoying to play against a Nidalee that can pounce on you and take you down extremely quickly like that. So the early level 2 coming in, we'll see if that does come into play for this one as SK move a little haphazardly towards the start of the lane. Normal lane starts across the board, so nothing fishy to start this game off.
Yeah, and we need to see how well Voidle and Hjarnan can handle themselves in this bottom lane. Remember that Annie's Molten Shield has been cut in half. And Defish and I have debated about how impactful this is actually going to be on the laning phase. Quite luckily for nRated up against a melee support in Leona, it's not going to be as scary because of the fact that he's not going to take all of that auto-attack harass. So for Given and nRated using their range to their advantage to get the XP lead and to start pushing the wave towards H2K. Voidle is going to need to go aggressive once he has a couple more skills available, and that's how Hjarnan and Voidle can try to regain control. But nobody else in the LCS has been able to do it against Forgiven and nRated. Let's see if these two can.
It's definitely going to be a tall order, to say the least. They have a pretty good all-in damaging comp, and we'll have to take a look at how these two junglers in particular are able to affect that lane. I would think that's probably a pretty big focus for H2K, but Svenskeren a little more interested in his blue buff for the time being.
Yeah, and something else to note about this Nidalee pick with the heal, and the fact that you can get a couple extra charges on your smite. See, this is what we've seen from solo queue.
Oh.
You are able to get in place. Now, if loulex gets tagged by a javelin, this is scary.
Oh, it's going to be forcing the flash away. Svenskeren still on the hunt. He should have the damage, but there's the cocoon. No, it's not going to be enough. The red buff helps Svenskeren grab that and some more. Over to the red for Svenskeren.
So this is exactly like we talked about as we were building up. Nidalee, with the additional damage from that hunt, has got the ability to actually clear these camps quicker. Svenskeren got both red and blue, moved into the Dragon Pit, and came to challenge loulex. So, well played, well executed. They've caught nRated.
Yep, a little bit of extra damage with the Phosphorus Bomb landing on nRated, but Forgiven staying nice and safe. Huge CS lead for the start of this game, about 9 over Hjarnan, who is having a really hard time finding some uncontested farm, but here comes Voidle again. He's actually going to get stunned up for just a moment. Bites off more than he could chew.
Look at loulex waiting in the wings, though, looking to engage. Got to be a little careful. The one thing that I'm very interested to see what Svenskeren, how he plays, how he itemizes, and also how is he going to play this middle game, because you've got this great sort of assassin damage dealing jungler, but it's not going to be impactful because it's loulex that's going in bottom.
Yep, now Voidle going to try to turn his attention to Forgiven, who's a little bit low. Can they hand his first death to him? The heal is out. They don't have the damage, and nRated and Forgiven will both get away, but now Svenskeren has managed to get the gap closed. loulex, he wants to go for him, but not all in on all three members. Another spear, though, maybe he does. Oh, another heal, flashing away, teleport now. Here comes Odoamne, and nRated in a little bit of trouble. A little bit of a lot, actually, and he goes down.
So nRated dropped down. He actually did not manage to connect with the stun as H2K were trying to pull back. So the death for nRated is at the cost of summoner spells and the teleport from Odoamne. He was the one that got the kill, so definitely worth for that Lissandra coming bottom. But what additional things can SK take from this? Freddy's not pushing the top lane, and Sven's actually trying to get some deep vision down. One of the other things I love about this jungle Nidalee, you can just spam those traps out all the way through the jungle.
Oh, absolutely. You can spam quite a lot of things. And speaking of, it looks like the SK fans definitely coming out in force. No surprises there with a 74% vote to take this over H2K. And they're really looking like they want to start it off. Pretty high fee. Ryu now wanted to check in, but Sven was there.
And something that loulex was talking about during the laning phase clip that we just played was the fact that Svenskeren traditionally does not place a lot of the wards. The irony being he actually just moved into H2K's jungle and put that pink ward down at 5 minutes. So setting it up to contest for the next respawn being the most likely scenario. So even Svenskeren trying to adjust his playstyle a little bit more, and we'll see if SK can make use of that through some aggressive jungle plays. No, because loulex is going to kill it.
Well, 30 gold at the very least. Now, maybe that's why they don't play, so they want to not give them the economic edge. But yeah, Svenskeren, he is a jungler that just so often goes into the enemy jungle. They don't need wards because he is a ward, constantly roving around. However, you know, changing it up, that is what people have called the couple of holes in the SK style that's kept them from maybe not necessarily being one of the better top teams in the world in some people's eyes, but all the same, they're looking extremely strong here to start this game off.
Yeah, got themselves a small gold lead. Lanes going in their favor. You know, mid lane, even in CS, Freddy's had a small lead thanks to the fact that Odoamne teleported away. And of course, Forgiven, despite his support giving up a kill, he's also farming very well. So SK off to a good start, but look at the damage onto Fox.
Svenskeren's going to be helping out Ryu right here as Fox dashes in. Deathmark is on. They're going to try to kite it out. Fox, though, he could go down here. Looks like not quite. Svenskeren, though, comes in for a little bit too much. Fox finally does melt away, but Svenskeren dealing with a charged up loulex, 2 levels down, but quite a lot more health, and he actually lets him go. It's a 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane.
Svenskeren managing to get away thanks to the Nidalee passive through the bushes and all of those pouncers in Cougar form. Forgiven's caught again.
Yep, they've caught him. There's the phosphorus bomb, and nRated seems to be the target, though. They're chasing on him, and Voidle just not quite fast enough, but here comes loulex. Actually turns the attention to nRated. That's the easier target, and they will pick him off again.
No flash on nRated, he gets punished. I actually really like the fact that H2K have ganked repeatedly in this bottom lane. Forgiven did not have his flash from that lane encounter at level 1. loulex tried to punish, didn't manage to kill Forgiven, but they got his support. They've rinsed and repeated that gank. H2K are staying even on gold, but CS is still on the side of SK, hence the reason that they're keeping themselves together.
Well, no one's managed to kill Forgiven yet, but you know, they're doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Taking nRated down a couple of times. Svenskeren has hardly left this enemy jungle, but every time we see him, he's just moving around so unbelievably quickly, and this has just got to be so frustrating if you're loulex. He is fortunately making do with several trips to the bottom lane.
Yeah, I really agree. We need to keep a close eye on how Svenskeren continues to earn his gold, because he's stolen away a red buff, a blue buff, and 2 of those gromps from H2K, and that's before 9 minutes on the clock. If I'm looking at this correctly, it's also a Magus upgrade onto his Ranger's Trailblazer. So he's already got plus 80 AP and 20% CDR. That is massive at the 9-minute mark, thanks to the kills he's already been able to pick up.
Yeah, we don't really see too many AP junglers here. This will be the first one for a bit. Now Fox smelled something was up, dodges away from Voidle's Zenith Blade, goes in for a little bit of Foxfire as well. Ryu's not perturbed.
No, not this time around. And of course, on 5.2, Ahri's going to have that additional move speed from her Orb of Deception, but Fox feeling the pressure of even potentially getting caught out, he instantly pops the Spirit Rush down. I really agree with what you're saying. We don't tend to see AP-focused mages, and even when you do see AP champions like an Elise, they tend to build Juggernaut as their enchantment. So it's interesting to see Svenskeren, you know, in our first game of week 3, pulling out not only the Nidalee, but also going for the damage build. I think it's the only route you can go, because he needs to be able to assassinate people, because he's not a frontline champion.
Yeah, now he's going to get spotted out by this ward, but so much action, and we know H2K was capable of really, really crazy early game openers, but SK has really risen to the challenge here. It's been 5 kills in under 10 minutes. They are really letting each other have it. Really a lot of focus on this bottom side, but also the active jungle presence from both teams has been incredible.
Yes, I completely agree with that. What I'd like to see from H2K is some more... Oh, good
cheeky.
I'd like to see some more defensive wards from H2K, so that they can try to punish Svenskeren's invades if he continues to do that. H2K will be aware of it, because loulex has obviously lost several buffs and camps. So we need to see if they can adjust their vision strategy. For the time being, the focus just seems to be in the river, mostly focused around the Dragon Pits.
Yeah, that Skull Crab being stolen away by loulex will mean that the vision control is for H2K for the time being, but SK, they don't take dragons really quickly. They just make sure that when they're going for it, there's no way that the enemy team can contest it. So that has been one of their calling cards so far. Let's see if it holds true here.
Yeah, it really is. We were touching on it in our show opener that SK Gaming leads the way for dragons at 17. Second is actually Rocket at 13 dragons. So, you know, there's quite a big difference between you know, SK who's sitting at the top of the table and the next few teams.
Not to mention they haven't given any up except the one, and here we go.
Conceding one dragon in 5 games, continuing that trend. SK just understand the tempo of the 2015 season really, really well. But Ryu, he wants to contest.
Let's see if he can get in and maybe make the steal. Nope, it's smited away. And just Svenskeren and Fox combo up on that Drake. An 11.5 to secure them. Yet another. That's up to 18 count. We got to start getting a ticker after a while.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. We can count how many dragons they've secured, and also who's going to be the lucky person to kill Forgiven. Actually, that reminds me, there was a question that Primetime League asked. What time, what game will Forgiven die first? And Fox is going to dash to safety.
Fox won't be dying just now, but Forgiven is going to get chunked on. Could this be it? As soon as you say it, and guess what? It's Voidle who makes Forgiven mortal. nRated now also going down as Hjarnan picks that one up. As soon as you mention it, it's over.
I wonder if that was nRated going aggressive to begin with. We can see Tibbers was used, but I didn't see the timing on him. Now they're diving Fox.
Yep, the death mark is on. Ooh, Rio just barely dashing out of the spear range, and loulex trying for the chase on, actually moving his way out of danger, or so he thinks, because here comes Svenskeren looking for 2. Can he find Ryu as his cooldowns reset? No, the flash, a double kill. What is this Nidalee play from Svenskeren? Quick shot.
4-0, Nidalee is just tearing through H2K. We also saw the reworked Ahri saving Fox's life under the turret. He threw out the Orbit Deception and was able to run away from the threat of loulex and Ryu. Very, very good play from Svenskeren. What I particularly like is transforming back to the human, normal human mode to try to land another javelin toss before jumping in for the execution. So just great mastery, considering that this is not a traditional pick by any stretch of the imagination, and you have to go back. Forgiven died. Forgiven is down. The first team to take him out, and it's Hjarnan and Voidle that did it.
Yeah, that was Voidle picking up that kill, and it's kind of crazy, kind of ironic when you think about it. He can't be taken down for 4 games straight, and a support does it.
There's a beautiful irony in that, I think. But, you know, well executed. You know, Forgiven, despite farming well, even in this particular lane with nRated going down in multiple ganks, he's still winning on CS. But I think you can see nRated just not as comfortable on this Annie as he has been on other champions.
Yeah, it is a little bit more all-in-ish, and it's punished him quite a lot because he's just been way too squishy. But I think for his lane partner, at least, considering how much of a lead he's been able to build, I think he'll be forgiven for that one down.
I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of fans who didn't want him to die. So we'll see how that works out. SK still maintain a lead. They've got all of their kills focused on Svenskeren, and he's setting himself up for either a counter game or to try to put some pressure on Hjarnan and Voidle.
I feel like you need to do this too as Svenskeren, because Nidalee is a champion that's just not going to be very effective the later the game goes, but trying to snowball this out of control and taking what is traditionally H2K's strength, the early game, and pushing that against them and saying, no, you cannot. They're going to focus all their attention on this bottom side now.
Yeah, and something else that works into Nidalee's favor as well is, thanks to that Primal Surge, the heal, you also get an attack speed buff for 7 seconds, which is a really long time. If you throw that down onto Forgiven when pushing towers or in the mid to late game, he's just going to destroy towers and also get a massive boost to all of his team fight prowess. So this Nidalee pick working out, and something that we've not even looked at, Pyra, is the top lane. Freddy and Odoamne have been silently farming away. Odoamne TP'd bottom lane once, but that CS he gave up during that time is the only difference between these two.
Yeah, it's been a lot more quiet, to say the least, for the rest of the map, and most of that action has been fixated on towards the Dragon Pit, but all the same, it starts to be a bit of a threat when Lissandra gets ramped up, but the same thing can be said for this Gnar. He's gone mostly full tank build. I mean, it's pretty typical to be getting the Hex Drinker early on, especially against Nathie, and here we go. He's going to actually jump in or look for it, but Odoamne is too slippery for that Gnar.
Yeah, Odoamne just instantly grabbing him in the Ring of Frost. The W rooted Freddy in place. We did see another roam from Voidle to the mid lane. He's actually done that 2 or 3 times. But also look at nRated. nRated's roam to the top lane. They've gone in!
Yep, they found Odoamne, and they have nearly enough damage as Tibbers is going to help out as well. They're stunned within tower range. Odoamne is able to make his way out of danger between the Glacial Path and his flash. They traded in the top lane. And still, no deaths up there.
Just very well executed from Odoamne, outplaying Freddy as well as nRated. Freddy jumped in just a second too early on that Mega Gnar, wasn't able to crunch down on Odoamne as he came out. But now Voidle, he's the man in trouble.
Yeah, he does dash the spear, and he actually moves on to Forgiven, who's just chunking him down way too fast. Svenskeren and Fox are there, and I don't even know why he solar flared that one. He was a goner.
Yeah, it's a pretty short cooldown, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, 3-on-1, pretty easy kill onto Voidle, and SK, they just maintain their lead, sitting at about 2,000 gold. A few item breakpoints have been picked up, but look at the damage on nRated. If Ryu is able to find a target on this assassin and actually get rid of a Nidalee, an Ahri, or a Graves, who are all very squishy champions, that's how H2K can claw back this gold deficit they find themselves in.
Yeah, now there's going to be, in 45 seconds, another dragon on the board. SK, again, are very patient about these ones, and they're going to want to have their whole team with them when they want to try and take the next. The issue is they're definitely relying on the Gnar timing of Freddy. Not that he's not up to the challenge, but it's difficult against the Zed not to get popped in single target mode.
And very important to note, there's no teleport available for Freddy, something that Deficio was highlighting last week quite adamantly. Freddy's dragon timing is usually pretty good because he will walk down to his lane and not be forced to use that teleport. It's not going to be relevant this time around as H2K have got control of mid and just take an uncontested tower.
Yeah, they've actually been keeping up quite well in most aspects of the game. It's just the bigger plays are coming out of SK right now, and it's so hard to not get isolated and caught against this incredibly mobile Svenskeren Nidalee. On the other hand, they've gotten one tower now, so they've got a little bit of control in the middle. They've kept even for even, blow for blow in the kills, and they're only behind a little under 2,000 gold.
Yeah, SK need to be a little careful. You noticed H2K was trying to get some control of this Dragon Pit. They had a few wards down that SK is now evening out.
Whoa, that's quite a lot of damage. Odoamne, he was literally stunned. Did not see that much coming. Now he's looking for Freddy under the tower, but there's not going to be a lot to do to that Mega Gnar.
No, full tank Freddy's doing a good job. A little bit of damage from the Hex Drinker, but what I like about SK, they were clearing out the Dragon Wards, and there's going to be a lot of importance on nRated landing the stun to win those team fights. Ryu, he wants Fox.
Yep, and he looks like he's going for it. There's the death mark, but he's already taken quite a lot of damage, and he's forced to back away as the Zanya's Hourglass goes, but Fox has other ideas, and he takes down Ryu. Oh my goodness.
We called out Ryu last week as a player to watch and said he needs to step up. The first game that Ryu looked good in the EU LCS when he was playing a supportive Lulu, he simply has not shined when he's playing these assassins. His LeBlanc, his Castellan, and now his Zed simply not up to the task. Let's also be fair, Fox did a good job. He's also got a Zanya's Hourglass, so he has that sort of Zed counter, so to speak, in his itemization, and Fox made use of it. SK get a second dragon thanks to the kill.
Yeah, that isn't just the new Ahri, that is just Fox playing magnificently on that one. SK will grab that dragon on top, but H2K have some ideas to trade it out. They'll be looking for the top lane outer turret. Should have no trouble wrapping that one up as Freddy was away from home.
So for anybody keeping tabs, Svenskeren's skill order. He's maxing out the Javelin Toss first. That's the Javelin Toss / takedown if you're in Cougar form. And he's actually put 3 ranks into Swipe / Primal Surge. So going for his E second. A little different to what I was actually expecting, but it's working out. He only put a point into his W, the Trap and the Pounce, at level 3. So using the other 2 abilities to clear the jungle out and get into loulex to get that first blood. And from then, the game has just gone in SK's favor, but it's not completely over for H2K.
It does seem that now that H2K started to group up quite a lot more, they're in less danger of being isolated and picked off in those situations. Yes, there's still the threat of Fox waiting in the bush. Yes, there's still the threat of Svenskeren hunting you down quite literally all over the map. But H2K have patched some of those holes here, and they've kept up relatively well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough statement. You know, H2K, they're not falling completely out of it as far as gold is concerned, but they are the ones that are being dictated to. Like we said in Picks and Bans, with H2K's comp, they have the ability to pick fights, to start fights, to engage, and they simply haven't had the opportunity because look how proactive SK are. 20 minutes on the map, they sense an opportunity, and they just take the 3rd outer turret on top, completely uncontested.
Yeah, it had been pretty chipped away at, but really there was no time for Odoamne to get back there and really make the play, and there's nothing they can answer for here. So SK, both teams are playing very well. It just seems that SK has the slightly better game sense, and this is what's netting them advantages.
Yeah, and just 50% of the turret is now chipped away on that inner side. While that's going on, Fox has got an uncontested wave. H2K are not defending here at all. This is in reply, so at least they've traded that top outer turret for the bottom. But H2K need to find a way to stop SK's pushes, and that's how they can regain control of the map.
Yeah, it really is kind of like a game of horse. One guy does something, the other one goes for something else. Ryu does get a little bit back there as this tower score has evened out, and the gold lead is pretty close. But remember, those two dragons make quite a lot of difference, and SK, one of the reasons they're in first place right now is that their positioning in team fights has just been so legendarily good. Forgiven, he may have had his first death this time, but he has made some incredibly amazing plays from right behind his front line. And he's not the only threat on this team by a long shot. You've got an Annie, you've got a Nidalee, and you've got Fox's Ahri.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting you talk about Forgiven's play behind front lines. He has no really big front line this time around. Going to be relying on Freddy and Freddy alone. Svenskeren has gone as near to full AP as you can go. Haunting guys into potentially a Void Staff as his next item, so Sven really looking to get that penetration and looking to get that assassination potential down. And I guess if you counterbalance that with the fact that H2K have also got a lot of squishies, it can work out. As long as Svenskeren hits the Javelin, he can just pounce in there and take down whoever he wants from H2K. But again, look at Vision. Particularly limited. SK are not pushing aggressively, so they don't have aggressive deep wards. That's what nRated was alluding to when we interviewed him last week.
Yeah, and it's actually been interesting that Svenskeren has kind of kept a little bit more to his own side of the jungle in the past few minutes as well. They've realized that the same tricks aren't going to keep working against this H2K squad, who have shored up a lot of their defenses here. But again, SK still dictating the pace of the game and directing where they want H2K to go. For now, it's right up the middle.
Yeah, something that SK do particularly well is they don't put themselves in a position where they can get punished. When you think of SK games, I think 2 of them have gone to 5 dragons, 1 of them was to 4, and then the Baron, etc. SK will get themselves a lead, they will get themselves control, and then they will hold that control until they have enough power to just win the game. And I think we're going to see that happening throughout this game because SK don't have the greatest of tower diving / sieging team comps. It's going to allow SK to just keep finding the kills they need on H2K around the dragons, getting near to that 4th and 5th dragon, and then forcing H2K's hand. That's how SK can look to play and win this game. And let's see if they can maintain that control throughout.
Yeah, there's a lot of poke available for SK's side as well. They don't have to all in every single time with spears, boomerangs, and you name it flying left and right, but there's a little bit there for H2K to clear these waves away. They have to be careful not to get caught in any sort of pincer. Fox was waiting in the wings there, but still, this is a tense situation all around. Dragon coming up in a minute, and if they wait it out, this could be our first real big full fight of the game.
Ooh, I'd like to think so. And I'd like to think if that happens, I think the pressure is going to be on Voidle and nRated. Because if either of those two can land a good ultimate, that can just completely turn the tide of a team fight. You layer that solar flare with all of the CC that Lissandra and Elise are going to bring down, and the damage from Zed. On the same token, you stun somebody with Tibbers, and then have Ahri or Nidalee jumping in as the, you know, Fox and Cougar to eliminate somebody. There's just so much damage, and whoever pulls the trigger first and connects is just going to win this team fight. Look at SK pulling a Death Bush, and they've got vision superiority. They know that loulex and Hjarnan cannot...
They give everything up but Svenskeren, and now Voidle definitely knows. Spear came flying out of left field as the minion wave pushes in the top. They haven't actually sent anyone to deal with this, so SK is perfectly happy to try and buy a little more time. Gnar is already on for Freddy here, though, and it looks like they might want to force this H2K positioning in front of the Dragon Pit.
So if H2K group up in the Dragon Pit, they're going to be perfect targets for Javelins, as well as the collateral damage from Graves. And that is the scary point. If somebody goes low, Nidalee can execute them. Let's see how much poke or burst H2K are able to
nice smoke screen there. They got the reset, but Voidle, he's going to find Forgiven. The team isn't there, and he's going to get popped by Svenskeren. Here we go, turning around to loulex. Big Tibbers comes out. This could be the fight turning around, and I don't know, H2K scattered to the winds here. Odoamne, low Fox, Deathmark is on. He's going to get popped as well. Everything is going back and forth, and nRated and Forgiven managed to live it out. So did Hjarnan and loulex, but not by much.
No, not by much at all, but the man of that fight was Odoamne. He managed to get into the entirety of SK Gaming, threw down the ultimate on himself, and actually caught 5 members with it. 2 massive misplays, though, from H2K. Hourglass, I don't know if that was picked up. Yeah, for Odoamne. We'll catch in a second. But also, look at Voidle. Voidle went down before the solar flare came out. He simply did not even get time to throw his spell out. Odoamne single-handedly won that fight for H2K. They came out ahead. I believe they got the dragon as well.
You called it. And actually, I thought that was the Tibbers. I thought it was weird that it was stunning his own team. No, that was the Frozen Tomb. Really, really well played there. And yeah, H2K managed to do what few teams have been able to against SK, and they grabbed themselves a dragon to take it 1-2 in the score here. And that's not an edge for them just yet, but they're keeping it close.
But again, small misplays. If the solar flare had gone down, how different that could have been. If Odoamne could have popped that hourglass and stayed alive a few seconds later, like 1 or 2 more spells, you saw how low Forgiven and nRated were when they were exiting the river. But nevertheless, H2K are putting up a very good fight, and all of their damage is working against the squishy champions of SK Gaming.
Yeah, this is the difficulty of an all-in, and having so many squishy champs. Freddy is just about losing his Mega Gnar and all of that too. So SK have to be careful not to get overrun by that damage right now, and they've given up more this game than we really have seen from them in their previous 4.
Yeah, and you know, we touched on H2K, how they were looking better and better from week 1 to week 2. They're putting up another fantastic fight here in week 3 against one of the league's top teams at the moment. And I'm just looking at itemization because I'm obsessing over this Nidalee a little bit. Seeker's Arm got picked up for Svenskeren, so that's where the Magic Tome went to. And still sitting on that Blasting Wand. And now nRated is going to get doped by Ryu.
Yep, there really isn't a lot of help there. Freddy threw him a boomerang, but that didn't do much.
No. Insta-Gibbs for nRated. It was actually Hjarnan that got the kill credit there, if I read that correctly. So
yeah, SK can't do much at this tower here. They don't have the minions, and they're actually in danger of being collapsed on as Odoamne looks for something around the side. They should be able to get away from this, though.
So this is what Amazing was saying to me backstage before we were talking. When you've got this Nidalee in the mid-game, even if you're fed, what do you offer? The only thing you offer is assassination potential. You offer a lot of damage, you've got a lot of mobility. So yes, you can impact multiple locations very quickly. But if you put yourself in a siege position, you've got a fairly short-range carry in Graves, and then you've got engage from Lissandra, engage from Elise, engage from Leona. SK don't want to sit themselves in front of a tower and run the risk of getting caught by multi-man, solar flares. So for SK, what they need to make sure they're doing, setting up good vision and actually making use of the incredible mobility that Nidalee and Ahri offer you. Use the mobility, find the kills, and then push the objectives.
Yeah, and it does seem to be where this, not just this comp shines, but what they've been doing quite well this game. The catches from Svenskeren and Fox, and even in Forgiven's case, those have been where they've really stood out. On those little skirmishes, they don't want to straight up fight H2K, and that's kind of the issue, especially with Odoamne laying down the damage like he was able to, and Ryu able to dive. I mean, I would say the backline, but pretty much this whole team is the backline.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So, I feel like this game's going to hinge on those dragons. Once again, every time you look at the minimap, for at least the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, neither team has had particularly strong vision control. Neither team has had particular deep wards. And unless there's a dragon to fight over, neither team seems too invested in placing those wards down. So that signals to you immediately that the teams are focusing around those objectives, because H2K are going to suffer a very similar sort of sieging problem. They don't want to be throwing themselves into Ahri charms, into Nidalee javelins. So this game is going to be all about who controls the dragons, and Fox is caught.
Yep, he's going to pop his Zanya's Hourglass, but he may not be long. Ooh, nice dash away. The charm won't connect either. Here comes Freddy bouncing onto Odoamne as they've locked up. loulex can SK take this skirmish. It looks like they will. Forgiven gonna grab another one, and Odoamne, loulex both down as SK moves in the general direction of Baron.
The mobility of Fox allowed him to get out, despite the fact that he got shut down or jumped on by so many H2K members. SK, though, they're not going to rush Baron. They're setting themselves up for a death bush. Ooh, this is going to be so scary, Pyra.
Yeah, I think so. Although they're going to reveal on Voidle as he gets popped again. Forgiven coming up with that kill. Death Mark, Shadow Step rather, I should say, away from this one as Hjarnan is on the wrong side of the map. They've got one more. Question is, with 8 seconds left on loulex, do they start this one? It looks like they do.
There is so much damage coming out of the SK SWAT. They should be able to destroy this Baron well before anybody can contest.
Ryu
does have Flash, he does have Death Mark available, but 1v5, it's a suicide mission, and I think wisely, H2K are pushing the lanes. Look, you've got Hjarnan in mid, you've got Ryu pushing bottom. Can they take towers? We'll need to look at the HP.
They did take a little bit long to make that decision. Hjarnan will take a couple tower shots, does manage to get one down. They should be able to answer on the bottom side for one, as even with the empowered recall, it's taken them a moment. Oh, that tower's pretty healthy, Ryu. I think you might want to wait.
So now what has actually opened up for SK, we'll get to in a second. So Fox, he dodges the cocoon by throwing an instant hourglass. And look at that, he loses what, 60% of his HP before re-engaging and putting the hurt down on a full tank Elise. That was Juggernaut, Aegis, and a Giant's Belt. And because H2K just weren't really grouped up, Ryu wasn't even in range for that fight to begin. He was split pushing. H2K, bad call, turns around to bite them in the behind.
Yeah, it really does. And now another dragon starting to tick up to its respawn for SK, controlling that pit quite well. Although there is a few wards there for H2K.
Something that I'd like to see from SK now they've got Baron. You've got a lot of mobility between your Gnar, your Nidalee, and your Ahri. You could go for a 1-3-1 push and use your Baron-empowered minions to help siege down those last inner turrets. They give you the range, they give you the damage, and the likelihood of catching an Ahri, a Nidalee, or even a Gnar is actually quite difficult unless you really commit to everything, in which case it'll open up other areas of the map.
Especially with that third dragon taken away uncontested there by SK Gaming. Now, with the Baroned up minions right at their backs, they're going to start pushing in for this inner turret. However, you can see H2K mobilizing the defenses here. It's going to be hard to check into this team that can all in quite successfully.
So no teleport from Freddy. He's also going to make sure he's sticking with the team. He doesn't have Gnar charged up, but with the minions, H2K don't want to pick a fight. They don't want to contest a team that has that Baron buff and that very tanky front line of melee minions.
They're going to have to do something here.
SK doing a good job. They're using the Baron buff. They've got about a minute left before it times out. And I think they're just going to try to push down all the inner turrets.
They do have a couple more left available too. No waves pushing in their favor close enough though, so they are doubling down on this mid for just the moment. It's going to be difficult to crack this inhibitor shell though, even with the Baron buff right now. H2K has quite a lot of power there, but Hjarnan has to be careful. Shoving the minion waves back, but not quite fast enough. A little bit of damage dealt onto it. However, they have scared them.
Yeah, notice Forgiven's positioning. That was the first time he's auto-attacked. Solar Flare's down!
Yep, they got Fox on a cocoon, but they're not going to go in on that, and it just peels SK away momentarily. Still ticking with the Baron buff, and that tower is down below half health.
So Minion Wave is pushing in favor of SK in the top lane, but I think it's going to push against him in the bottom lane. So SK need to keep an eye on how they manage these side lanes if they want to continue this extended push.
Oh, Voidle actually got stopped on his Zenith Blade. How low can he go? Fox is going in. Fox is coming right back out. And this tower is going to get poked down. And now it's all the inhibitor for SK Gaming, eyeballing that one, and they have so much damage. 33.5. They should be able to take this one away, and they do.
Yeah, so Inhibitor secured at the 33-minute mark. SK have now got absolute map control. They're going to look to push those side lanes again. Baron has worn out, and it all just stemmed from an extended siege. If H2K do not connect with the Solar Flares and all in, they simply cannot stand toe-to-toe with those Nidalee Spears, with the Orbs of Deception, and that's what ended up happening. We saw Voidle trying, but nobody else from H2K committed to the fight, and it just meant SK took the objectives.
H2K going to try to answer back here. Ryu just clears the wave, doesn't actually stick around to push on this one. So he will have to go back home for the time being. Also, this patch too, it's a little bit harder for Zed to do. His base attack speed and the growth was slowed a little bit.
Yeah, they dropped some of his numbers to try and actually dissuade some of his dueling and split pushing power. But Ryu, you know, the last time he was split pushing actually ended up costing his team a team fight and a Baron. You can argue whether that's his mistake not being with the team or the team's mistake for engaging without him. You know, half of one, 50% of the other, so to speak. But for SK, this is just a great position to be in. They're shoving the waves out. I think they're most likely going to set up again for the next Dragon or the next Baron, pull H2K towards them, and the teamwork from SK has just been really, really exquisite. They've played around this Nidalee pick. They've not presented themselves too many places to get jumped on, and they're once again in control.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for H2K to really turn a fight around, although they have done it at least once. We'll see if they can do it a little bit more. Right now, a little bit scared to even check into their own jungle as Svenskeren and Fox just managed to chunk down that inner turret. 6-4 is that score. 35 minutes into this game. SK Gaming threatening on the bottom side of the map now. Voidle, loulex, and Ryu here with Hjarnan and Odoamne trying to defend, but they can't get too far out of their base.
So again, we're going to have this extended siege. It took SK a Baron buff in around 2.5 minutes to get the inhibitor turret last time round, and that was with Voidle not really connecting with the great solar flare. Let's see how grouped up SK are. The moment you see 3 or 4 of them clump together, anticipates Voidle's Leona to go in. Super minions pushing into H2K's base, so it's a ticking time bomb before somebody commits to an engage.
Fortunately, right now for H2K, there aren't a lot of SK minions just there yet, so the small timing window they have in their favor to try and fend this one off. And as you mentioned, it did take a Baron buff last time for SK to get into this base. It might take that again. Of course, that's available in a minute and a half. The Dragon, a little bit after.
Not a lot of wards placed for SK in the jungle, so if they decide to retreat through the red side, H2K is going to have the information. But again, this is just, it's one of the weak points of SK's comp. They're not particularly great at taking towers. They can sit on that front line. They've got the heal from a very fed, very AP-heavy Svenskeren to keep the HP bars topped off, but they don't have a long range to just sit on that turret. And you can see the inhibitor turret is untouched. They've been here, what, 90 seconds now? So SK needs to find another way to play the map, and Forgiven's done it with the top inner turrets.
Yeah, really only a couple of minions to take. No trouble for an AD carry, and there's no defense here. And that will be the last inner turret being taken down, as SK Gaming have forced H2K to the confines of their base for the most part.
Now this is the scary part if you are H2K. If you have to go through your jungle, clear up vision, and try to engage in either Dragon or Baron against a Charm, a Javelin Toss, Nidalee, traps, as well as an Annie, with potential Tibbers, that is where H2K instantly just gets blown up. They need to keep vision control available at all times so they can ensure they don't blindly get caught up by all of the damage that SK can put down.
Yeah, they're sticking together just to try and not get picked off either against this against this SK squad, excuse me. Dragon's up in 20 seconds though, and unless they can take another miraculous fight like they did at the pit previously, it's going to be hard for H2K to turn this around. They've fallen quite behind in the gold game, and actually SK are going to try to bait this Baron out, although they're standing on a ward.
So they're going to clear that one out. I think they're going to keep baiting either the Dragon or the Baron, pull H2K towards them, and then just engage. That's the options. Look at your minions in the top and bottom lanes. They're pushing into SK's territory. So H2K has actually bought themselves a little bit of time in those respective lanes.
Gotta be careful not to take too many of those Nidalee spears, though. Odoamne, not too tanky outside of Voidle, well, and loulex as well, but they're getting pushed back. Now, they do have a minion wave pushing in the top for them, so that's good. Something
that you do see that SK are performing much better this time around, notice how they remain spread out in the river, but still close enough to start and engage. The thing that cost SK their team fight earlier was a 5-man sort of route from Odoamne. The moment Voidle stepped forward, SK just spread, and they have to keep doing that if they want to ensure they don't get caught out.
Very sneaky Baron here.
Is running interference, and I think H2K are going to be too late.
They are coming, though. There's a big solar flare, and they're going to jump onto nRated, but Voidle, again, way too early for his team. And wait a minute, he nearly picks the Baron. That was loulex, though, going down, and now SK is just starting to run train. Odoamne does what he can, but everybody on H2K is melting, and Ryu just trying for the great escape. It was a 3 for none so far, and it looks like they should be able to polish him off. Only Hjarnan here with the cooldowns the way they are. I don't think this game's much longer, QuickShot.
SK should be able to finish this one off, and it was a great Baron play. You saw how they just melted through that Baron. Voidle threw everything he had and the kitchen sink at SK, and it was not enough. SK, they're on the Nexus turrets. They're picking up their 5th win of the Spring Splits.
Yep, they are pushing in for the win here. Hjarnan going to have to pull off a miraculous effort to try and keep this one alive, but they're just tanking the turret lasers. There's nothing H2K can do here. Well, they're going to try, though. Voidle coming off, and actually, they might be able to turn it. The Nexus, no, they can't quite do it. GG and SK Gaming are 5-0 in the Spring Split.
2 important things from this game. How successful that jungle Nidalee was, number 1. And number 2, Forgiven taken down for the first time. Hjarnan and Voidle actually able to out 2v2 Forgiven and nRated. Not that that's really a big story of the game, but hell, when a guy's got a 43 KDA coming into the game, you have to highlight when he gets taken down.
Yeah, they finally managed to do it. So Voidle will earn that honor. However, SK Gaming remains undefeated as a team. And they look a bit relieved there. A little bit honestly, this was probably one of their toughest games yet. H2K, with that fantastic early game of theirs, were able to hold on, minus getting picked off continuously by Svenskeren. It really was a monster effort to stay relevant that game.
I think if you think of the entirety of this matchup, the strengths and the weaknesses of a jungle Nidalee were very well highlighted. You have this champion that has, phenomenal clear speed, that was able to get an early kill into loulex and take his red buff. Then snowball ahead. I mean, Svenskeren was 4-0 within the first 12 or 15 minutes. But then as soon as the first few towers fell down, that Nidalee offered very, very little in the way of contribution in the mid game. We saw how long it took SK to take towers. They didn't have the greatest control around the Dragon Pit. I'm very interested to hear what Amazing has to say actually about this pick and how he thought it played out. I was impressed by Svenskeren's mastery of Nidalee, considering she's new to the jungle, so to speak.
Yeah, well, at least in the LCS. So, I
Yes.
mean, that was a really, really great first game. It definitely didn't prove quite as deadly the longer it went on. However, they just started to snowball the lead. Again, they turned H2K's strength against them. They said, no, this is our early game. Your jungle is our jungle. Everything you have is ours. And they just managed to walk off with all of it. H2K stayed pretty relevant. They were able to get a little bit back. Odoamne had a monster effort in that team fight at the Dragon Pit, but it was just too little, too late. And SK, they pick up a 5th.
Yeah, I completely